We continue with the video lecture on auditing techniques. Today we are going to discuss audit sampling as per auditing standard 530. What is audit sampling? Audit sampling is an investigative tool in which less than 100% of the total items within the population of items are selected to be audited. Now, what do we mean by less than 100%? An audit is expected to check all the transactions that are there in the books of accounts or presented to him, but he chooses to check few transactions or sample transactions from the total population. So auditing technique, auditing sampling is all about choosing some sample transactions to be audited from the total population of the transaction. Why it is being done, that is given in paragraph number 2, because it acts as a supporting evidence to the auditor on which he bases his audit opinion without having to audit every single transaction in the books of account. So in short, audit sampling is an auditing tool or technique where the auditor is not going for 100% checking, but less than 100% checking. More or less it is 25 to 30% or even up to 50%. And he bases his opinion on whatever samples he has checked, sample transactions that he has checked. Now, what is the objective or the purpose of audit sampling? Number one, getting the evidence on which he will base his audit report. Number second, it helps in reducing the number of resources in terms of time, persons, and energy on the auditing work. Point number three, it is a basis on which an audit report is being written. Point number four, it helps in detecting errors and frauds that are there in the books of accounts. Point number five, it is a proof that the auditor has done his work properly with due caution. There is no negligence in the work that he has done. It is as per the accounting standards. And point number six, it is a tool of investigating, as whatever sample transactions are chosen, they are checked thoroughly and an audit opinion is based on those transactions. Now, what are the factors on which the sample is decided or designed? Number one, the audit objective. Suppose we go to the debtor and we want to check the validity of the debtors. Second is the population. Population, there are 1000 transactions of the debtors. So what is the total population? 1000 debtors are there. So out of that 100 debtors we will choose, and then we will get an audit evidence. What type of evidence we will collect? We will collect the opening balances, closing balances, the payment entries, the credit notes, the debit notes, the discounts, the bad debts, the bills receivable, how many debtors are pending for more than 6 months, less than 6 months, the age of the debtor, etc. So the factors that decide, there are three factors that decide the designing of the sample. That is the what objective, what is the population, and what type of evidence is needed to make his audit opinion. What are the factors that influence the size of the sample? Suppose the auditor decides that I want to check these number of transactions from the total population, then how is he going to decide? It all depends on the level of acceptable sampling risk that the auditor is presuming. If he is a lower risk kind of a person, then he will have a larger sample. If he wants to reduce the risk of sampling risk, then he has to take a larger sample. Tolerable error. How many maximum errors are acceptable to him? If the tolerable error is very low, then he has to take a larger sample. He doesn't want errors too many errors, or he is not tolerating too many errors, then he has to take a larger sample. Expected errors. What is the expectation of the auditor? If he is expecting that there will be more errors in the books of accounts, then he has to take a larger sample. And if he is expecting that the error will be less, the company has done a fine job, then he will take a smaller sample. So what are the factors that influence the size of the sample? It is the acceptable sampling risk, the tolerable error, and the expected error. What are the forms of sampling? There are two forms of sampling. One is statistical audit sampling, and second is a non-statistical audit sampling. In statistical audit sampling, the auditor doesn't have much role to play. In non-statistical audit sampling, the auditor has a big role to play. Let us go to the in detail in these two forms of sampling. Statistical audit sampling. Here the auditor will use certain statistical methods. He will use random number tables. He will use certain statistical formulas and formats. Okay, so there are many ready-made formats and formulas that the auditor will use, that we will come to a later part when we are covering the types of sampling methods. So out of a population of 100, if he wants to choose 10 transactions, then the auditor himself will not choose the transaction, but a statistical technique will be used, a statistical formula will be used, and the auditor will choose those transactions as per the formula or the table. So what happens in statistical audit sampling is every transaction has a chance to be selected. Okay. Next is a non-statistical audit sampling. In non-statistical audit sampling, no statistical tools are used. No random number tables are used. Everything is based on the auditor's judgment. Selection is done by the auditor. So what are the negative parts over here? The negative parts is that every transaction doesn't have a chance to be selected. It all depends on the auditor. The auditor will say anything above 1 lakh has to be chosen. So anything below 1 lakh doesn't have a chance to be chosen. If the auditor say this specific information and these companies are to be selected, these transactions related to these companies are to be selected, then other companies don't have a chance. Other transactions of other companies don't have a chance. So in non-statistical audit technique, the auditor himself decides based on his judgment, skill, and professional attributes or experience what are the samples or what are the transactions that he has to choose for auditing. Now let us go to some of the methods, statistical as well as non-statistical. So first one is a random selection. Under random selection, every transaction has a chance to be chosen because here statistical techniques and tables will be used, and some are named over here like Trippett's random number series, Fisher's random number series, Kendall and Bangington, etc. So these are the number series. When we apply the random selection technique, the numbers are generated such as if 100 transaction is there and we want to choose 10 transaction, then these number series or these formulas or these Excel tables or these tools will give us numbers like 7, 25, 34, 50, 73, 83. Then those transactions will be chosen. So in this random selection, every transaction has a chance to be chosen from the population. Then we go to systematic selection. In systematic selection, there is a certain time interval, and after that time interval, that number of transactions are chosen. Such as if there are 100 transactions and 10 transactions are to be chosen and we use the table of 10, then which numbers will be chosen? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, or it may be 7, 17, 27, 37, 47, etc. 15, 25, 35, 45. This series will be chosen, constant certain intervals. Or then we may divide the population based on certain stratified sampling methods, such as the debtors may be decided based on their age, more than 5 years, more than 3 years, less than 3 years, or it may be 0 to 3, 3 to 5, above 5, like that. So under systematic selection, the auditor employs certain selection criteria, and that he applies on the population, and he tries to derive a sample which may represent the full population. Some of the techniques are stratified sampling and systematic sampling methods. Then haphazard method. What happens in the haphazard method is The auditor himself chooses the transaction without employing any random techniques or any stratified sampling techniques. So it all depends on the satisfaction of the auditor. The auditor himself chooses the sample. And the auditor has to take care that he should not choose certain samples because they are easily available, easily located, or he is biased towards those things. His biasness should not come in the choosing a representative sample. Okay, so under this haphazard method, the auditor is not using any statistical sampling techniques, any specialized sampling technique. It all depends on the judgment of the auditor, and that is what is known as haphazard. Any transaction which the auditor feels has to be chosen will be chosen. Those transactions which the auditor feels are to be ignored or will be ignored. It is purely based on the judgment and satisfaction of the auditor. Block selection. Box selection is used to check whether certain items have particular characteristics. For example, the auditor may use a sample of 50 consecutive test checks to test whether the checks are signed by authorized signatory, rather than putting any 50 single checks throughout the year. So certain characteristics are to be checked. So who is the authorized person for these checks? So that full 1 month checks will be identified by the auditor, and he will just figure out who is the authorized person who is signing. But the drawback of this is it may not represent the full sample, and there may be errors in certain period which the auditor may not have checked. So block selection is done for finding out certain characteristics of the transaction. Monetary unit. In monetary unit, it is value-based selection or value-based sample size selection and evaluation is done based on certain monetary amounts. Expenses above 1 lakh to be audited. So any expenses above 1 lakh will be compulsorily audited. Debtors having age of more than 5 years will be compulsorily audited. So all the debtors having certain age limit, certain transactions with the organization will be audited. So it is all based on the monetary units. Next, what is the precaution the auditor has to take? Number one, he has to be very reasonable related to the sampling selection, because he is going to base his opinion on the sample. So he has to be very reasonable basis for selection of a certain sample. Then designing the sample. What are the techniques he is going to use, statistical or non-statistical, to design the sample? Third is the size of the sample, large one or small ones. Fourth is the selection of transaction. What will be the basis of his judgment? How many types of nature? It all depends on the nature of transaction, the volume of the transaction, how many and which transactions are to be selected. Then whatever transactions are selected, what is the audit procedure he is going to follow? What is the audit technique he is going to follow? Because thorough auditing techniques are to be done on those transactions, because opinions will be based on the auditing technique applied on those transactions. And then comes evaluation. Evaluation means from the samples chosen, the audit procedure is done, and the auditor is satisfied that whatever sampling audit he has done, whether he can make his audit report on that, that evaluation has to be done by the auditor. Now the question arises, can the auditor say that out of 100, I have checked only 25, so my responsibility is related to only 25. If any errors or frauds are there or mistakes are there in the remaining 75, I am not responsible for that. That doesn't happen. Point number one says the auditor is not absolved of any of his liabilities. He has to do 100% auditing. So even if he is taking a sampling technique to help him get his audit opinion, audit report, still he is responsible for everything. Point number two, because it is the auditor's decision that he wants to use auditing sampling, it is the auditor decision which sampling technique, which sampling unit, which sampling size. But the auditor is answerable for all the things which he has sampled and which he has not sampled. So auditor is not absolved of any of his liabilities, even though he is using the sampling technique.